Greetings and welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you could be with us today. Before we begin, please take a moment to hit those like and subscribe buttons and maybe drop us a comment down below. And while you're at it, go ahead and check us out over on Patreon. Link is in the video description and at the top of my YouTube page. Lots of cool stuff going on over there. And before I go much further, quick shout out to my Tier 4 patrons. Russ of the Frozen North, Neo5AC, Nick, and Zachary Langmead. Thank you very much. Now, on with the story. The Deathworlders, a story by Philip R. Johnson, a.k.a. Hambone, Hambone HFY, and Hambone 3110. Chapter 23, Back Down to Earth. Date point, 10 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, AV, HMS Caledonia, Deep Space. Adam Ades. Okay, Murray. Okay, Murray? He's a fucking ninja, but he never watches his surroundings properly. Too focused on the goal. Claymore, tripwire, something like that. Force him back into it with a couple of aggressors. Or maybe lure him into it by being a tempting target. Makes sense. What about you, Vandenberg? Me? I wouldn't last 2 seconds in CQB against an aggressor. And hey, that way you could maybe live capture me. Get the implants out again. Just what the hell are you boys talking about? The 5 of them turned. Hey, Kovac, Adam smiled. The diminutive blonde NCO in charge of biomechanics and EVA systems life support gave him a friendly wave, though her attention was on her tablet. pH balance check and last QA, guys, she announced. Show me your butts. They dutifully turned around with an assortment of chuckles, presenting the life support packs that rode low on their backs and pelvis for her to assess with her tools. So, what were you guys talking about? What we'd do if one of us got biodroned, Firth told her. She shuddered. Ew, just the thought of that. I know, right? Baseball agreed. Fucking shoot me if it ever happens to me. This sparked universal agreement. So, you're basically having a who would win in a fight conversation, Kovac noted. Very macho. You're good, Firth. Yeah, but this way it's practical and shit, Sykes noted. Well, don't let me stop you, she assured them after a few seconds of silence. You're good, Burgess. Okay, Vandenberg thought for a second. Blazinski? He's too cautious for an ambush. Just gotta put the pressure on him, I guess. Suppress him and work around the side, Firth noticed. Okay. Warhorse, then. Kovac giggled. Snipe around. From long range, she suggested. You're good, Rebar. Everyone nodded, muttering variations on the theme of, oh yeah. Hey, Adam objected. No, she's right, dude. No way I'm confronting your ass up close. No, she's right, dude. No way I'm confronting your ass up close. Yeah, but, dude. From extreme long range, Vandenberg added. Come on, I'm not an aggressor. Take it for the compliment it is and move on, brother, Baseball suggested. Gee, thanks. Shame to ruin that face, though, Kovac added. You're good, Ares. Same goes for you, Base, Vandenberg said. Get some Jets guy to do it from 1,000 yards. Damn straight, Burgess agreed and exchanged a fist bump with him. What about the Major? Firth asked. Major Powell? Adam asked, still trying to ignore the comment about his face. Kovac had a knack for making his ears go red, though right now they were mercifully hidden under the collar and neck sheath of his EV mass. What other fucking major am I going to be talking about, dumbass? Right, yeah. You're good, Sykes. Airstrike, Sykes said. Dude, come on. Yeah, he's a fucking badass, but he's not that... Nah, bro, Baseball interrupted. It's not about him being too scary, though he fucking is. It's about giving him a proper send-off. You're right, Adam agreed. He'd deserve nothing less. Nuke the site from orbit, Firth nodded. It's the only way to be sure, Kovac finished for him. Helmets and masks on, boys. They scooped the helmets up and put them on, pushing them down firmly until they engaged with the rigid component of the seal at the back of the skull with sharp clack. The mask locked into place along the jawbone and mated with the suit's air supply, and to the helmet with a similarly mechanical solidity. The flexible rubber seal that did the rest of the work of keeping their faces protected from vacuum slid together easily and automatically. Kovac tugged the roll of duct tape she'd been wearing as a bracelet off her wrist. Seal check, she announced. This was a simple ritual. Each man carefully examined the seal of the man beside him and announced it was good with a ringing slap of the helmet. Kovac then double-checked for him and then applied some tape over the seal for good measure. It probably wouldn't actually do anything, but everyone felt better about it. HUD check. Good, 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 good. All good, she tapped the large button on her tablet. KMP check. The spacewalkers stood and jolted in place a bit as they used their controls on their wrists to test their kinetic maneuvering packs, and another round of good was called. And equipment? Adam helped the guys shrug on their equipment packages and make sure their loads were properly strapped on and distributed. That was his job specifically, backed up by baseball, and he did it right. He took pride in that. Good, he declared. That's our checklist. You're green lit, Kovac stepped back. Over to you, Vandenberg. Thanks, Kovac. She nodded and joined the rest of the techs in heading for the airlock door. Rebar, being the senior NCO, was in charge of the EVA they were doing. Righteous? Firth nodded and touched the side of his helmet. CIC righteous. We're green lit for EVA. The reply came back in a few seconds. Righteous, Caledonia CIC. We have you ready. Condition amber. Condition amber, Firth called. Clear the deck. One of the techs by the airlock echoed the call. Clear the deck! And they filed out. Once it had cycled and the light above it indicated full seal, Firth nodded to the guys. They exchanged fist bumps and he touched his helmet again. CIC righteous. Go for doors. I say again, we're go for doors. The acknowledgement was lost as a siren hooted 5 times, giving plenty of warning for anyone who might still need to dash to hit the emergency button, and then the gravity went away. So did the air, brushed to the corners of the room and held in place by a force field that swept the deck empty. They all glanced at one another, checking for any signs of distress. Everyone's suit was working fine, and they watched the huge flight deck doors push outwards and then split into 2 halves, which both swung aside. Naked stars yawned at Adam from incomprehensibly far away, somehow made to feel close and dangerous by the fact that literally nothing separated him from them save distance and his EV mass. All he could hear was the faint muffled sound of his own heart, his own digestion, and the rush of air into and out of the mask past his ears. CIC righteous. Commencing spacewalk. Righteous, Caledonia CIC. Have fun. Man, we have got to get some sounder music or something in this shit, Baseball commented. Vacuum's too quiet. I hear ya. There's our box, Firth agreed. Adam's HUD filled with a flight waypoint and instructions on how much thrust to give himself, which he followed to the letter. Firth knew best when it came to EVA navigation. Caledonia threw a spotlight on their target as they got close to it. A round vehicle, the proportionate shape of a hockey puck, but 20 feet across and bright blue, covered in alien labels and script. One standard Type 3 Dominion life raft. Without the light, both it and the bulk of their mothership would have been damn near invisible. The human eye had never really been designed for the lighting conditions in interstellar space some light years from the nearest star. In fact, aside from the spotlight and the blinking beacon atop the life raft, the nearest and brightest point of light was the gravity spike that Caledonia deployed to catch the tiny craft so that it could be brought aboard. They swung into place. As Firth set up shop notionally above the life raft to keep an eye on its velocity relative to Caledonia, Adam went with Sykes and Burgess, joined by Vandenberg in approaching antipodal spots on the rim of the little craft, where the 2 defenders set to work, welding larger versions of their suits' KMPs to it while the protectors held them in place. It didn't take long before Rebar reported done, prompting a quiet cuss from Sykes. Done. I owe you 50. Damn right you do, Righteous. Over to you. The five of them settled on the life raft and held on as Firth took over piloting it into Caledonia's waiting flight deck. As they crossed the threshold, Firth made a satisfied noise over the comms. Okay, Caledonia CIC, Righteous, we're in the bay. Close the doors. Warhorse, you may as well wake 'em up. Adam gave him a clear thumbs up and used the computer on the inside of his wrist to connect to the life raft's comms, a process which automatically shut down the stasis field within. Hello in there, he announced. You're being rescued by the United States Air Force. They'd gone over that one a few times, how to begin the introduction. In the end, they decided that any humans in such a life raft would probably have been in there for long enough to not know who the SOR was, and aliens wouldn't know the difference anyways. And seeing as Adam himself was still, after all, a pararescueman... Before we pop the hatch, he continued, we just want to warn you guys that we're humans from Earth, so if there's any special precautions you need us to take to protect you from harm, you let us know. A male voice answered in definite, untranslated English as the doors finished closing behind them, though there was a rough edge to it, like he had a throat infection or something. No need, pal. We're American. Adam grinned inside his mask when he heard a feminine exclamation of disapproval in the background, and the male voice clarified. All right, 2 Americans and 1 Canadian. 3 humans? He broadcast on all channels, and the guys all held up a fist in celebration. Jackpot! Y'all okay in there? 3 cases of recent vacuum exposure. We really need a doctor, fella. Adam waved at Baseball, who gave him a thumbs up. Copy that. Sit tight, folks. We'll have you out of there in a minute. He switched his broadcast channel. Caledonia Medical, Warhorse, do you copy? Warhorse, Caledonia Medical, loud and clear. Life raft contains 3 humans wounded, 0 echo tangos. 3 cases of recent vacuum decompression and probable pulmonary edema, ebulism and DPS, probable pleural effusion. Baseball and I will triage. Ventilation on standby, please. Wilco, Warhorse. SOR, standby for lunar gravity. Adam swung himself out from the life raft to arm's length, and then together they fell gently to the deck at 1/6 of a G. Pressure returned with a thump, and as soon as the raft was down on the deck and safe, the gravity ramped up to 1 G. 2 lights over the main flight deck doors turned green. 2 on the board, Firth announced, no longer needing the radio. Rebar, we're good to break seal. Clear to break seals, Vandenberg acknowledged. Get 'em off, guys. Adam got his helmet off as fast as he could and hit the door release even as the first of Caledonia's medical staff came squeezing through the airlock into the flight deck with trolleys and life support equipment. The occupants were in a bad way. The fit-looking tan dude in the back had badly bloodshot eyes, but seemed to be breathing fine. The whipcord athletic blonde woman to his right was coughing pink froth, but most worrying of all was the young Asian woman in the front. She was barely moving, and he could see clear signs of shock. Shit, you guys weren't kidding about the medical attention, he said, and hauled himself in with them. You should see the other guy, the blonde told him. Ha! Bueno! He turned back out the door, using the excuse of talking to people outside to cover prepping a dose of anesthetic. The Chinese girl was going to need to go on life support immediately, and for that, she needed to be asleep. Not for the first time, he wished that they were authorized to use Crew D for first aid. Base, get the blonde patient. She looks edemic, he instructed. Rebar, I need that board there. Vandenberg nodded and stepped smartly to retrieving it, so he returned his attention to the Chinese girl. Hey, can you try and grip my hand for me? He asked her. Though she was able to raise her hand in sort of grip, there was nothing there in terms of strength, but she was so focused on the task that it was simplicity itself to give her the shot with his other hand. She didn't seem to notice. Okay, that's fine, he accepted the board from Vandenberg. I'm going to just get this board under you, and we're going to get you taken care of, all right? She nodded weakly as he maneuvered her gently onto it and realized that she hadn't actually spoken yet. What's your name? She frowned. Apparently the anesthetic was kicking in. I'm Zhu. Zhu Chang. Adam didn't allow his surprise to show. Of all the people that he could have pulled out of a life raft, he'd found Rigari's friend. Besides, her breathing was definitely too labored for comfort. There was fluid on her lungs, and that needed to be gone sooner rather than later. Surprising coincidences could be handled later. Nice to meet you, Zhu, he told her, as he lifted her easily down from the life raft and into the waiting trolley. And you? She was definitely falling asleep now. What's your name? He took her hand comfortingly. I'm Adam. Staff Sergeant Adam Aries, USAF Pararescue, he replied. He was pretty sure she was asleep by the end of that sentence. Right, let's get that chest drain in, he told the medics. Date point. 10 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, AV. The Arabian Sea, Earth. Biodrone. It would have been easy to lose track of the MV Nasrpur without care and attention to detail. The ship was not large, and its running lights were just one of many visible across the open leagues of calm sea. Perfect sailing weather. If there was one thing a biodrone was extremely good at, however, it was sustained attention to detail. The human it had once been could never have summoned the willpower of focus to stare at one target for hours on end, blinking only when biology demanded it. He would have shivered, or grown bored, or sought conversation. He would have stretched his legs, or relieved the insistent pressure on his bladder. Insofar as biodrones could be said to have desires of their own, it might have wished to receive an order to stretch its legs, or urinate. No such order was forthcoming, and until a controller deigned to pay it any attention, no such order would be forthcoming. All it had, therefore, was the data provided to it by the ghost of a personality, lacking anything functionally resembling willpower or agency. That ghost was interrogated often when the biodrone was required to blend in. Had it been striving to blend in, the biodrone would have used that information to justify stretching its legs and urinating. But it had received no order to blend in, and so it did not. The order it had received was to watch the ship they were approaching, and so it did. No provision had been made for it to hand off this duty to another biodrone, so it could stretch its legs or urinate, and so it did not. The controllers had not left it with the autonomy to make these decisions for itself, and this was wise of them. If they had, the ghost of its personality would have responded to what had happened to him in the only sane way. It would have screamed, and screamed, and screamed. The MV Nasrpur was mercifully close. Soon, a controller would make contact and issue an order to prepare for combat. Insofar as the biodrone was capable of looking forward to something, it was looking forward to that order. Urinating had a clear logical role to play in battle preparations. Relief was only one legitimate interpreted order away, and that order was imminent. Until then, it watched the MV Nasrpur. There were 10 of them, biodrone bodies collected from around the geopolitical region collectively known as the Middle East. The concept of being in the middle of the direction of prograde was nonsense, but the biodrone was not granted the autonomy to ponder that absurdity. Many more biodrones had been assembled from all across this irrationally named region, but the 10 in this boat were all, for lack of a term more accurate and satisfactorily encompassed them, soldiers. Fighters, perhaps? Men whose lives had left them proficient in the use of weaponry, though each of these for very different reasons. 1 or 2 were soldiers indeed, the volunteer agents of a legitimate state's legal monopoly on controlled violence. Others had first raised a gun to protect themselves and their families, and never found an opportunity to put it back down. The rest had taken up arms for religious reasons that the drone's programming simply was not equipped to understand, even if it had been granted leave to try. The order came, and the biodrone rushed away to obey over the side of the boat, which took a good minute or 2. Parameters flooded in as it did so. Data about the layout of the target ship, how many men were on board, their armament and training, their exact locations, the location of the cargo they were protecting. The drones conferred. bypassing crude language to form a network which evaluated the unique skills each one had inherited from the human it had once been and liaised this information back to a central controller, which ran a rapid fire of thousands of different simulations based on their suggestions, keeping the most successful, permutating upon them, combining them, throwing raw processing power at them until it had arrived at the most effective approach which carried a maximal probability of satisfying all mission objectives. That approach hinged upon two simple truths. The first was that their vehicle was invisible to the radar of the ships trailing the NV Nassiper to a discrete distance, and produced almost no audible noise, certainly not any that would be heard over NV Nassiper's own engines. The second was that biodrones were expendable. Everything was timed down to the second. Their boat pulled up alongside the Nassiper, and 3 of the biodrones boarded her, using grapples, rope ascenders, and a muscular boost from their fellows to scale the merchant vessel's curving flank. 3 more were delivered a little further forward, and the last 4 boarded the ship at its nose. Or tried to. One of the biodrones turned out to have a higher estimation of its abilities in life than was actually warranted, and plunged into the water, never to resurface. None of the others paid any attention beyond adjusting their plan of attack to account for the loss. The drone that had needed to urinate was among the 3 that reached the deck at the prow. Theirs was simultaneously the most important part of the raid, and also the easiest. They were tasked with disrupting the ship's ability to call for help. This had to be done first, and it had to be done silently. It involved ghosting up 3 flights of stairs to a mid-level door on the ship's forward tower. An unfortunate crewman was stabbed before he had even finished turning to see who was opening it. As for the radio equipment, there were 3 men in that room, none of whom were alert for danger, all of whom were bored and undisciplined. Military they may have been and trusted, but all of their careful preparations had simply never accounted for alien activity. The third of them was dead only a second after the first, just enough time for the biodrone that entered the room first to switch aim, backed up by his fellows. The gunfire would draw attention, but instructions from the controller, followed instantly and perfectly, meant that any attempts to radio for a report or call for distress would meet with failure. The radio wasn't turned off, it was simply turned wrong. The 3 biodrone teams went mobile. Confused sentries on the deck gasped their last, still wondering what was going on, even as 7.62mm rounds ripped through them. Panic shouting from below deck heralded the arrival of the garrison protecting the ship's cargo, whose haste to fight back led them to blunder straight into grenade tripwire traps and ambushes. As the controller had planned, 2 of the biodrones were killed, sacrificed in distracting the defensive force long enough for their fellows to outflank and enfilade the enemy. Another was sacrificed, storming into the last knot of defenders with a brick of high explosives on a 5-second countdown in its arms. The few who survived its detonation were executed before they could recover their wits. That left 6 biodrones, 2 of which were wounded. Those 2 were tasked with throwing their fallen counterparts overboard. The healthy 4 went to work with hoists, winches, and trolleys, getting the loot they had come to steal up on deck. With no human left on board who even had the mental capacity to shoot at it, the spaceship that had been trailing NV Nassiper for hours dropped its cloak and lifted the cargo off the deck and into its hold. It remained visible for only 5 seconds. The biodrones had one last task. If it had been able to, the biodrone might have wished not to take this next step, but the controller had given it clear instructions. Obedience was inevitable. Within it, what might have been the last shred of a human being reflected that at least it would soon be released. Words that meant nothing to the biodrone's guiding programming drifted through its head like a passing thought, consigning the soul of its body's former owner to Allah. Together, the biodrones vaulted the rail and sank. The rings of white water they made when they hit were barely worthy of a comment next to the disruption caused by the merchant vessel's own wake. 20 minutes later, when a helicopter full of Marines from PNF Zulfiqar arrived in response to a failure to make routine contact, they found only the corpses of their comrades and a worrying absence of the ship's cargo. Date point: 10 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, AV. HMS Sharman. HMNB Folktha, Cimbrian, the Far Reaches. Adam Ares.
Hey, Dexter. Man, you are not going to believe who we just pulled off a life raft on the edge of Elder Space. Although, maybe you can guess because you wouldn't be interested otherwise, huh? Anyways, we found your friend Zhu.
You telling Dexter? Sykes stuck his head in the tablet's camera field of view. Hey, Dexter! This prompted Baseball, Firth, and Rebar to join in too, and Adam just grinned at the camera as they expressed a series of happy greetings to their Gowan friend / mascot before he finally shooed them away.
Yeah, you gotta visit us sometime, man. We can do like a joint training thing or something. Maybe see what you've got to teach us, like that fucking pulse gun trick you pulled. That shit was insane.
He cleared his throat.
Anyway, yeah, we found your friend. Looks like she's been stuck in that pod for about 5 years, and they've had a rough time of it, but she's alive. By the time you get this, they'll probably have taken her back to Earth, but don't worry, I'm sure we'll be able to sort out putting you two back in touch again. Yeah. Give my regards to this Ima of yours. Guess she'll want to know too, and yeah, that's about it. See you around, Southpaw. Peace.
He stopped the recording and sent it without bothering to play it back. Regari had been in touch a couple of times since Capital Station, and Adam knew that he'd be delighted by the news. All done? Baseball asked. Adam just grinned at him. He'd saved lives, had some good training that morning, and been able to send some really good news to a friend.
Good day,
he commented. Yeah. Baseball had been doing that for a while now. Something was bugging him, Adam could tell. But if Base didn't want to share, that was his business. He wasn't about to push it.
You got anything planned?
He asked instead. Baseball shrugged. Going drinking with Titan. Dude's not been laid since he got shot. You? Adam exchanged elaborate handshakes and backslaps with the other three as they left.
Eva's friend Sean's coming up from Earth. Apparently his uncle's like this journalist or something. Doing a bit on the Byron group, yeah? We're going to go up to the lake, go for a swim. Really looking forward to that. They only just declared it clean this week. I've not been up there since before I enlisted.
Oh.
Something bothering you, bro?
Adam asked. Baseball stood awkwardly in the middle of the locker room, drumming his hands nervously on his thighs and licking his lips. Adam stood up.
Dude, what's wrong?
Baseball apparently reached a decision. Brother, you'd better sit your ass back down. I've got something you need to know. Date point. 10 years, 2 months, 2 weeks, AV. Whitecrest Clan Enclave, City of Weekhow, Planet Gao. Regari. Where other officers of the clan had busy offices full of clutter, keepsakes, mementos, and memories of jobs well done, Regari's was characteristically rather more Spartan. This was largely because he never used it. He was usually too busy with field work. Whitecrest was all about security on a big scale, and that meant intelligence, information, data, and the correlations and relations between those data. Most of the most important of that data crunching went on right here in the Clan Enclave, a subtle edifice of geometric shapes clad in talkwood and greenish glass, separated from the bustling city of Wikau by a low stone wall, a decorative moat, and some well-groomed parkland. It was a fittingly prestigious and understated home for a prestigious and understated clan, and its sprawling Warrenist basements were full of officers doing vital though unglamorous work. Regari, as a political officer, should not have been amongst them. The location of his office was a relic of the clan's disfavor, though that had softened over the years as the fathers responsible had retired and as Regari's own influence had grown. His friendship with Guillemai had done wonders for the Whitecrest breeding program, and the fact that he was now forging bonds with a human military unit. Several of the fathers were worried, he suspected. A younger male with that kind of influence, and certainly one with as many cubs as Regari had now sired, was a threat to the established order. His immediate future was doubtless going to involve either attempted assimilation into the clan leadership or, vastly more likely, relegation to yet another satellite position with all the appearance of prestige. Right now, though, politics ruled the day. That was Regari's job, and Regari was good at his job. Indeed, he'd become even better at it since discovering just how modifiable his new cybernetic hand was. Had he worn sleeves, he would literally have had some tricks up them. First and foremost of which were the petabytes of storage space and the holographic projector in his palm. His workstation was literally attached to him, available at an instant's notice. "Yulna's going to win," he declared. Father Tarek, an elderly officer ostensibly responsible for supervising Rigari's work, scratched at his ear with an air of skepticism. "I had thought that her attachment to the human female, just like Giamai," he suggested. "Is much less of an issue than Mother Suri and her supporters like to believe," Rigari informed her. "I had Brother Ruvi conduct a meta-analysis of the data sphere commentary. Most of the females just don't care, and of those who do, majority are broadly positive." Tarek inclined his head. "Positive?" "For reasons ranging from pragmatic to the compassionate," Rigari elaborated. He activated the gesture-based command in his new paw that caused it to project the files in an almost physical format above his palm. With his remaining natural paw, he could select, move, and even throw the files around. Copying them to another device was as simple as throwing them towards said device. This he now did. "That's my full report," he explained, as Tarek studied and accepted the incoming file. "It details my findings, my reasonings, and my supporting evidence. Much as I like and respect Yulna, I've made every effort to remain neutral and unbiased in my assessment, and I am still convinced that Mother Suri has a negligible chance of being the next Mother Supreme." Tarek stood. "I will read it in full and present it to the Fathers," he promised. "Your recommendation, I take it, is to side with Yulna." "The risk to the clan is negligible, and the potential benefits considerable." Tarek made a thoughtful head duck of acknowledgement to Rigari's point, and let himself out. Rigari gave it a few minutes and toured his office. He used the time in tidying up the minimal mess and examining his few keepsake. A crystal data wafer full of Zhu's precious collection of Earth entertainment, one of Giamai's walking canes that she had bequeathed to him, and a framed picture. A gift from the SOR depicting all of them gathered round him and beaming those big, toothy Deathworlder smiles. Actual pigment printed on paper, a technology so obsolete in Gowan society that it might well have been an antique or relic, and obsolete by human standards too. But this one was glossy, crisp, and new. That was enough procrastination. He headed out, locked up his office, combed a bit of his stray fur back into its place as he jogged down the hall, and let himself into Brother Ruvi's office. Ruvi was an ally, a genuine one. A fellow victim of clan politics whose career had been similarly holed by voicing honest concern to the wrong father. He was even more fervently in favor of reform and a change of leadership than was Rigari. Unlike Rigari, he'd been promoted to leadership of the clan's digital security and information wing, what the SOR had called SIG-INT, and, like Rigari, had taken his new role and excelled at it, adapting to the demands of the new job with the aplomb and rapidity that had made Clan Whitecrest's reputation. Rigari didn't bother with a greeting. He'd been planning this particular sting all week. He read the summary and then forwarded the file to Rayu, Redilo, and Yemil. Rigari sighed in relief, and Ruvi chittered. The Cedra's own ears was relieved, though. Tarek had been the subject of an unresolved question, whether he was working with the little cyst of fathers who held the reins of power in Whitecrest and were getting progressively cozier and cozier with the monolithic nepotism of the Dominion, or whether he was doing the right thing, no matter what that right thing might be. Forwarding the file to three fathers who had, in Rigari's estimation, successfully balanced authority with conscientiousness was strong evidence for the latter. "Excellent," he growled. "I think we—" He was interrupted by his communicator, which cheeped at him in a 1-beep, 2-beep, 3-beep rhythm until he checked it. "Ah." Ruvi noticed his colleague's ears prick up. "Good news?" "A message from Warhorse." "You have a human on your priority message list?" Ruvi asked. "I have 3 humans on my priority message list," Rigari retorted, and opened the message. 30 seconds later, his hindclaws slid and scrabbled on the smooth concrete flooring as he bolted out of the room. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Casual Deathworlder, your host, and this has been The Deathworlders, Chapter 23, Part 1. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. If you did, please go ahead and smash those like and subscribe buttons down below, and perhaps consider dropping a comment. It all helps the algorithm. And, as always, a huge shout out to my editor, Greygor. Thank you very much, buddy. I could never do this without you. Okay, then. So, we are past the monolithic chapter and on to the new stuff. And over off to the side on our Wednesday program, until we come up with something new to do, we are doing random HFY stories. So if you have any that sound good, send me a suggestion. If you happen to have written one and want to hear it read, send it to me. I'll take a look at it. Okay, now then. Something tells me this episode is going to run a bit past the 25-minute mark that I'd wanted to cap this off at. So I'll have to make the next one a bit smaller. I know that with the screw-ups and restarts that I did, added some time to the counter, but I'm currently looking at almost 55 minutes here, and you can cut maybe 10 or 12 minutes off for general fuck-ups and restarts. So, yeah, I kind of made a bit of a hash out of that. But not this one. This one's going to be a bit longer than I wanted. So, hopefully it'll be shorter next time for the algorithm. So now, question, who's got the question? Okay, ice cream. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Leave your answers in the comments down below. Until next time, be safe, be well. I love you all. Bye-bye.